My husband of 20 years bought us a new house and pretended that he was moving in when the movers came, but when we got to our new house, he had the movers to keep his things in the truck and moved back into the old house we used to live in. My name is Veronica, and now I'm looking at this empty closet. Here's my story. The empty closet. Wilbur had a handsome teenage son, his spitting image because Wilbur was a handsome man. His son was varsity team captain, perfect GPA, star athlete, looking at a full-ride scholarship to college. Their daughter, just a year younger, cheerleader, captain of the debate team, and was planning to go to law school after undergrad. Gorgeous mom looks like a model. Wilbur had a beautiful family and a perfect life. He is the successful businessman, attentive husband, and they are somewhere between very well off and rich. He has a church-going family, all believing in the Lord. He was so good to his wife, Veronica. He bought her beautiful gifts, she shopped for clothes and whatever she wanted whenever she wanted. They drove the best late-model luxury cars. Now they were getting a new house. The one they lived in was vintage, antique, it was old. But the new one was one to write home about. Moving day came and Wilbur was home to direct the movers as men are known to do. He seemed selfish to ask them to pack all of his things first, but they did. He had the checkbook. Then his family's things and the rest of the household. Once packed up, they led the way in their cars and the moving van chugged along through the streets of Memphis. They weren't moving very far away, but it was to a brand new subdivision with big lots and multi-million-dollar homes. Everyone was so gleeful to finally arrive at the new house. It was mansion-esque and everything was brand new. The children got out of the car and ran into the newly designed and built house as if they hadn't been there every day since the foundation was dug. Today they would be officially moved in. Now they can invite their friends just in time for Mom's birthday. And they have a pool. Ah, this is the life. Veronica directed the movers to place each item exactly where it goes so there would be no need to move anything again because she certainly wasn't going to lift any furniture and Wilbur doesn't touch household things. She certainly didn't raise her children to be servants, they didn't have any chores to do. She prided herself in that. Children should be children and that's all. All the household items were placed, and Veronica was making a list of the new furniture that she would be needing to make this place look like the mansion, the palace that is suitable for herself and her family. Wilbur saw her and knew instinctively what she was doing. So he said, "Veronica, do not even make that furniture list. We are not buying anything new for this house. The house is new and it is what you wanted." But Wilbur, Veronica, where do you think money comes from? All you do is spend money, my hard-earned money. Your money? Wilbur, that's not fair. Veronica thought to herself, are we going to have the same fight again over money? His money? It's our money? We are a married couple, and she knew she had contributed a great deal to Wilbur's success. But Wilbur, she started again. No buts, Veronica. The house is paid for and it is entirely in your name. You don't get it, do you? Veronica tilted her head as if to bring one ear closer to what he was going to say next, although she pretty much knew the words of this fight by heart. They'd had it so many times. You don't understand business and could not be a businessperson like I am. There you go, there's that pride. She was so tired of his arrogance and being condescending to her. Veronica knew she was nobody's dummy. Deacon Wilbur, full of pride, she mocked him to herself with a smirk. This man a deacon, how did the people at the church not see this? So, he continued, here is your mansion. It is yours. It is paid for and it is in your name. My name? Why? 'Cause you wanted a new house, a brand new house, you said, and isn't this exactly what you wanted? Well, yes, and I love it, she said. Kids love it. We love it. She was busy setting up everything and organizing her massive walk-in closet. Through an hour or so, she came out into the master bedroom. Walking past her husband's closet, she noticed that he hadn't put any of his clothes in it. Wilbur is a clothes horse in fashion. Looking good, looking rich, smelling good is very important to him. He had nothing in his closet. Veronica got irritated. Surely he didn't think she was going to set up his closet for him. She's not a slave. Not only that, he wouldn't be able to find anything. It was 20 years of marriage to Wilbur. She knew how helpless he could be or pretend to be. She was not about Wilbur asking where is his necktie and where are his socks when he had his own closet and could organize his own things. She already had 2 kids to care for. Wilbur was a grown man. She looked outside to see how much the movers still had to unload and wondered that maybe they just hadn't gotten to Wilbur's things yet, since his things were first into the truck. No, the moving van was gone, so why didn't Wilbur get them to at least bring his things and his wardrobe boxes upstairs in their massive new home? She was getting frustrated. She walked past each of the kids' rooms and saw them busy organizing and setting up things. Good, she said aloud. She went down the stairs, which swept gently into a swirl. She felt like a queen. She was a queen as far as she was concerned. Veronica swung open the double-glass front doors. Truck was gone. Wilbur was not there as well. Wilbur's Mercedes was not there either. What in the world is he doing, she wondered. She's pretty sure they didn't leave anything at the house. She called him. Wilbur, where are you? Oh, Veronica, I'm busy right now. Doing what? Unloading the truck. Wilbur, don't be funny, the truck is gone, plus you don't unload things, you don't touch boxes and things. Well, Veronica, I'm directing the movers. Wilbur, she insisted, they are gone. How are you directing them? Veronica, you and the children have moved. Enjoy the new house, the mansion that you have always wanted. I'm moving my things back into our original house. I'll be living here from now on. Veronica's mouth fell to the floor at the same time as her cell phone fell on the slate landing of the elegant porch. Veronica couldn't decide if she was upset that he wasn't moving into her mansion or if she was worried about being embarrassed when her friends found out. And what was this about, anyway? She jumped into her luxury sedan and retraced the path back to their old house, the one her grandmother had left Veronica in her will. The one that after getting married and they didn't have much starting out, they lived there. The same house they lived in as they anticipated their first child. It's the house they bought their second child to from the hospital. It's where the memories of growing up and childhood birthday parties were all held. It was home. Then, Veronica met another truck in the driveway delivering furniture. Brand new furniture. Oh, she marched into the house screaming, "This is why I can't have any new furniture? And why are we living in separate houses now, anyway? What is all this about? Veronica, you live where you live, and I like it here. You're the one who wanted to move. I'll give you child support and housing allowance." What? A housing allowance? Child support? Yeah, until the kids get 18. We're divorcing? You said that, not me. Veronica was beautiful, but she was nobody's dummy. What Wilbur didn't remember is that old house was Veronica's grandmother's house and she had given it to Veronica in her will. She and Wilbur had lived there in the lean days before he became successful in business. Part of their success was because they had no mortgage and were disciplined enough not to borrow against a paid-for house. But it was Veronica's house. Veronica jumped back into her car and drove like a maniac back to the new house. She stomped upstairs to the master bedroom. She sneered and nearly snarled as she went past that empty master closet where Wilbur's things should be hanging. She thought to herself, well, more room for me. Now I have 2 master closets. Veronica imagined what beautiful things she might buy and put in that second closet. Then reality hit. She was now going to be on child support, which was for the kids, and a housing allowance. She didn't even know what that meant, but she guessed it wouldn't be enough. She never had a budget before. This was too much. Soon the kids would be in college, they were only a year apart. What in the world? How in the world? How would she live? She cried a little at the irony of living in a mansion, a brand new mansion with no money. No! She screamed out loud, this will not do. Veronica and Joyce were in college together and they both had planned to be lawyers. Joyce became an attorney, but Veronica got married to Wilbur, had children, and dropped out of the workforce. They weren't well off at first, but Wilbur bribed her not to go back to college by simply giving her everything she wanted. Gold cards, then eventually black cards, everything she wanted. Stay home and don't work, he'd say. I got you. She and Joyce met for coffee at Interstate Cafe, which was really a barbecue spot, but their coffee was really good. The place was crowded and noisy, and that was great because Veronica wanted to vent, and she knew in this din no one would make out what she was saying. My grandmother's house, she said to Joyce. No, your house, your grandmother willed it to you. True enough, answered Veronica. I want to create a foundation and sell the house to the foundation. For $1, she added. Okay. Then I want to see if I can get that antebellum house declared as a historical site. Okay. Veronica, where are you going with this? After that, I want to turn it into a bed and breakfast and conduct tours there, and it is so close to Graceland, people will flock to it. Well, that's for sure. Zoning? No problem, it's Elvis Presley Boulevard, easy to change to commercial use zoning. So, this can be done? Yes, Vero, but why? Check into it for me, and then I'll meet you in your office in a few days so I can tell you the quiet part privately in your office. But can you do this quickly? Yes, you know it. 2 days later, Veronica stepped into Joyce's office to hear Joyce say, the paperwork is done. It shouldn't be many days now before we hear that the house that your grandmother had always told you that slaves built 200 years ago and it still stands will be declared a historic home and cannot be torn down. I want to serve tea and sandwiches on the veranda from noon until 4 p.m. daily. You? Well, no, I'll hire people. And what else will you do with the house? A bed and breakfast, there are many bedrooms in that house. It was a boarding house for slaves back in the day. And on the Underground Railroad, escaped slaves on the way north as quiet as it's been kept. Yup. So I want to showcase that and restore it to antebellum style with tours downstairs and the guests can live upstairs. You will make money. Yes. I'll take out a mortgage on my new house to finance it. It will work. Wilbur is agreeing with all of this. Well, Joyce, here's the Wilbur story. She caught Joyce up with Wilbur's shenanigans, such as pretending to move with the family and then moving back into the house. Wait. Wilbur didn't move to the new house? Nope. He is living in the old house? Yup. So you have to put him out of my grandmother's house. What about the equity loan on the new house? Wilbur will have to approve that. No, he thinks he's clever. That house is in my name, only my name. So wait, Vero, you own both houses. Yes, I do. I own both houses, Joyce. They both threw their heads back and laughed. Joyce for joy and relief, and Veronica laughed at Wilbur's foolishness. And she laughed to mask the emotional pain. She used the moment, the laughter as a bandage to wrap and cover her hurting soul. So, what of your marriage? I think Wilbur is over there entertaining women in my house. Grandma would turn over in her grave. Oh, I did not know Wilbur was foul like that. Isn't he a deacon at your church? Yes. Is he still a deacon? Joyce was almost afraid to ask. Yes, somehow he is. Think at that church, if you give enough money, you can be anything you want to be. Do you still go there? Do all of you go there? Yes, but in separate cars as if we are strangers all of a sudden. I didn't know Wilbur was foul like that, repeated Joyce, shaking her head. But he is. Are you okay, Veronica? I wasn't at first, but I'm getting better by the day. Joyce, I'm going to turn the tables on Mr. Wilbur. So Grandma doesn't have to turn over in her grave, she can keep resting in peace. I'm going to handle this. So, this bed and breakfast, tea on the veranda thing is payback? Veronica was silent at first and then paused and tilted her head like a curious exotic bird, but then said, "Yes, it is." Wilbur was shocked when he was served with papers that the house had been sold. He called Veronica, yelling, "Veronica, you sold my house." "Wilbur, that's my house." "Well, I want the new house then." "Wilbur, that's my house too, you put it in my name, remember?" "Veronica, how could you do this?" "Wilbur, you told me that you will support me until the children get 18. What am I supposed to do after that? You never wanted me to work. So, what am I supposed to do after you stop giving me support? I can use this money to live on until I figure out how to do business," she sneered facetiously. "Maybe I'll go to business school." Wilbur, who was so angry, mocked her one last time. "You? Business? You don't get it, do you, Veronica?" Veronica hung up the phone. Enough of being put down and belittled. That old house was a boarding house. Her grandmother conducted business. Business was in her blood, and she planned to make a success of her life. He didn't know who bought it, just that it was sold and he had to move out. It was Veronica's foundation through the shell company that Joyce had set up for her. The antebellum home has been restored, and we see from the outside the sign, the veranda, as it has been turned into a business. The renovations began and were elegantly finished in 3 months. On the porch we see several tables set up, as it is an elegant place for sandwiches and high tea. Quickly became a hot spot, so tables spilled out onto the lush green lawn. Tea and sandwiches on the veranda from noon to 4 p.m. daily, and upstairs 10 elegant antebellum-style bedrooms, not refinished to the level of slave boarding rooms, but elegantly appointed and expensive, $450 a night per person, all-inclusive. The B&B was on the average 90% booked every month. Tables for tea and sandwiches booked to capacity every day by women who lunch, the B&B guests and tourists and curious Memphis residents who found the place online or heard about it by word of mouth. She served on the veranda by reservation, so there were no vulgar lines or inconveniences. Table made money 7 days a week. Soon the veranda got a wine license, so profits really soared after that. The same chef who made the breakfast for the B&B guests made the sandwiches. The maids for the B&B cleaned upstairs in the morning while the guests ate breakfast. Then the maids turned into waiters and waitresses for service on the veranda. Everyone except the front desk and security went home at 5 p.m. after cleanup. It was perfect. Veronica was making a lot of money. She became business-focused and too busy to shop and spend money. She saved more and more, especially to reinvest into her enterprise. Wilbur? Who knows? He rented a small apartment downtown so he could try to relive his youth. He came around to see the kids, but he had little to say to Veronica. He never knew how good of a businesswoman Veronica had become. She savored her secret, but was about to burst to tell him. She wanted to mock him for a change. But no, not yet, she'd tell herself. Veronica was smiling all the way to the bank every week. People didn't know that she owned that bed and breakfast, although historians and journalists toured it, slept there, and did stories on it. Finally, they found out that Veronica's grandmother owned it, and they began to reach out to her for comments and then full interviews. The interviews were great for business. It's been restored beautifully after the foundation bought it. Don't you wish you had been the one to have kept it and restored it to do honor to your grandmother? Oh, said Veronica. I dearly wanted to be the one to have done that. Do you ever go there yourself? Yes, I go every week. The reporter thought she meant as a guest. No, she went to manage the place and pick up the receipts. More than 2 years later, a savvy reporter did deep research and put it all together that Veronica owned the veranda tea room and bed and breakfast. New interviews started pouring in: Southern Living magazine, House and Garden business magazines, Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, Martha Stewart magazine, and Oprah. business was booming. Social media influencers and online travel hosts flocked to the veranda because of its location, and it was so picturesque. Images of her place were all over social media. She even had a listing on TravelAdvisor as a hotel bed and breakfast and also as a restaurant, as the veranda was still very popular. Wilbur, still living in his bachelor pad downtown somewhere near Beale Street, didn't come to the church anymore since he was removed as a deacon because he had left his wife and kids. One day he came by to see this veranda in person. It happened to be on a day that Veronica was there. Their eyes met. Veronica had no animosity toward him. He simply opened his mouth that was no longer full of pride and apologized to her. "I'm so sorry. If it had not been for you, I never would have been a success in business, and I am still doing very well. There was a little hiccup, but I renewed my dedication to God and repented to Him of what I did to you and the kids, and God turned my business back around. So now I'm here to repent to you. Veronica, I was weak and immature, and it all went to my head. I'm so sorry for all I did to you and for every evil thing I ever said to you." "Thank you, Wilbur," Veronica said, knowing that she was never waiting for his apologies to go on with her life. But she graciously let him speak. "Wilbur, I can honestly say that if it hadn't have been for your ridiculous actions—" "Ridiculous!" he yelled. "Yes, outrageous, scandalous, and ridiculous. I never would have proved that I could do this, that I could build this. I would still be in Dillard's or Nordstrom shopping, at a makeup counter or a perfume store somewhere, and lunching with my friends. I guess I needed to come back down to earth." Wilbur agreed and should have learned better now than to say anything at this point, but he couldn't resist. But what came out of his mouth was sincere and endearing. "I wanted to treat you like a queen. You deserved it, Veronica." "Thank you, Wilbur," said Veronica, as a little tear was forming in her eyes, but she willed that tear to go back. They each rose from the table and gave one another a hug. After all, they were once friends. Once married, twice had kids together, and were still friends. Veronica didn't know this, but Wilbur was going to call her tonight, and they were going to talk on the phone for hours, like college kids. Then they were going to go on a date next week. In a month they would reconcile, and in 2 months they would get back together, and Wilbur would move his clothes into that big master closet that had remained empty for 2.5 years. Veronica wasn't waiting for him. She had become another person who was no longer obsessed with appearances and wardrobe, so her side of the closet had been enough. Veronica wasn't waiting for Wilbur to return. Life was waiting for Veronica to grow up, get properly focused, and be the best Veronica she could be. She knew she was enough, and now Wilbur knew he had done too much, and he became another man too. A better man. Life had pushed Wilbur into being a better man, the one he was supposed to have grown into all along. They both knew that the kids would be shocked when they came home for summer break from college. "They may think we're crazy." "Crazy for each other," they said simultaneously.